this game, they have got to do one thing on the offensive end. Put the damn basketball inside. Because they talked about it earlier tonight at the halftime of the Arizona USC game that we were watching. Since Cole Anthony entered that game against Boston College, Garrison Brooks has pretty much been forgotten about on the floor. This was a guy that was your second leading scorer behind Cole Anthony and had pretty much dominated ACC play for you, giving you a chance, almost willed you to victories against Miami. Granted, Miami was not good. And
they beat Miami.
No, but I'm saying in that game, he was the one that almost did it all. You had a couple other guys that played really well in that game too, including Brandon Robinson, who had a career day. And then against NC State, took over inside. So, again, I think there were other guys that played well, but Garrison Brooks was the main guy in those games. Now he's pretty much disappeared. The guy that you said has been seeing a lot of improvement lately, Armando Bacot, hasn't gotten as many touches. Why? That's the biggest question for me. I don't care that Cole Anthony is back. Anybody that has watched this team all year, and that includes when Cole Anthony was on the floor before he got injured, knows the only way this team is going to have success on the offensive end, especially with Brandon Robinson now done for almost the rest of the season, is put the ball inside. If you don't have to worry. This game could be over pretty soon, pretty early.
Yeah, I wrote about that. The offense has to be as close to Carolina-esque as it's going to be with all the injuries, all the lack of continuity on the offensive end. And that starts with playing through Mr. Pickle and playing through Mondo. They combined for 10 shots at Florida State. And look, give credit to FSU. They did certain jobs, a good job at certain times running them off the block, getting them out of position. But also, at some point, I'd much rather you force the ball inside and it gets stolen than you force up an open three-pointer that turns to a long rebound and a lay-in on the other end.
Yeah, the size argument that people were trying to make for Florida State, they're smaller than they usually were. That's a terrible argument.
So, Duke appears to be tougher on the interior. Well, we heard the same thing back when they had Marvin Bagley and Wendell Carter. And I loved Wendell Carter as an individual player outside the uniform they put on.
Oof.
And they put the ball inside and they beat him up on the board. So if I'm Roy Williams and I'm Carolina, we're going to challenge that inside game because no other team in the ACC values inside play like we do.
Oh, plus you're not going to make an open jumper to save your life. That's just kind of where they're at this point.
So I think you got to look at that. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, we had our argument about Cole Anthony the other day. And look, he's going to play because he gives us the best.
Settled from that at all?
He gives us the best chance to win because of his talent level. I had a conversation with my dad that I figured I'd bring it to you that, well, maybe he shouldn't dominate the ball and you move him at the 2 guard and you let Leaky Black run the offense. And I told him, I was like, well, if you watched the game and you were paying attention, that happened to end the Florida State game and the offense picked up a little bit of flow. My problem with that is I feel like Cole Anthony is not a good enough spot-up shooter to spot up and shoot threes. And his work without the basketball is lazy. He's not going to run around from one end to the other to get open. So I don't see how that's going to work because he needs to dominate the ball to score.
Okay, couple of good points. I do want to point out that
they're both right points.
I brought this up when he was originally coming back, when we were trying to figure out how you could play him and Leaky on the floor. Now you got no choice because with Brandon Robinson gone, Leaky's got to be somewhere. It's either the 3 or if you move him to the 1 and kick Cole out to the 2. I don't think that it would be the worst option in the world. I understand that, like you've said, doesn't really move without the basketball. My argument towards that would be, well, neither does Andrew Platek, unfortunately. That's just not Platek's game. I mean, people continue to complain about his play, and it's like, let's be real honest. We didn't see him having this big of a role in this offense this year. But I think it would be somewhat of an experiment to try, just because at this point, just from watching the last 2 games as opposed to the prior 3 games, that your best chance to do something offensively is to not have Cole Anthony handling the ball. Because, and again, I said this when we were having the argument, it is not all Cole's fault that the offense goes completely stagnant when he is the one bringing the ball up. Everybody else just stops moving around. Now, if you want to make the argument, well, that's because they don't think they're going to get the ball, I guess you can make that argument. That's still not an excuse to just stand there and not do anything. You got to move without the basketball to get the basketball. So, but I think it would be at least worth seeing for a decent period of time. And this might be the game to pull it out in, because look, you have no choice now. If there is any sort of hope to make the NCAA tournament, you have to win out. There is no pretty much anymore. You have got to win every single game on the remainder of your schedule if you want to get in as a bubble team. And I'm not saying you got to win every single game the rest of the year, but you're going to have to start building momentum if you want to try to win it, try to get in through winning the ACC tournament. Because people are still looking at it as, well, if we win the ACC tournament, we're in. If you continue to play the way you're playing right now, there is a 0% chance that you will probably even win a game, let alone make it all the way to the final day and play for an ACC championship. So, yeah, I think it's worth a shot. See what Leaky can do. I liked him bringing the ball up a little bit more. I noticed that at the end of the Florida State game as well. And I thought the offense looked a little bit better. So, yeah, I think, hell, why not give it a shot at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I'm pretty sure a Hall of Fame head coach has thought about it, just because maybe it makes life a little bit easier. The only positive I see to that is maybe Leaky isn't as focused on getting the ball to Cole Anthony. He had seemed to work out a rhythm with Garrison Brooks, with Armando, when they got positioned on the post to feed them the ball. I also don't have a problem with Carolina moving either Armando or Garrison to the elbow and running your offense through your big man in the passing game, because both are quality passers. Mm-hmm. They know how to make decisions. Garrison's gotten very smart with his reads. It's not a normal way to run your offense in 2020, but that right now, without, you don't got Anthony Harris, you don't got so many guys, that's now a legitimate option. That's how you're going to have to run your offense.
Those are your 2 best offensive players right now. Run it through them. Yep. I agree with that.
So, I think the thing that's going to come down to this game is, and this has really been the hit and miss for Carolina, outside of their ability to make shots, can they protect the ball? Duke's going to steal the ball. They average over 8 steals a game. Florida State led the league entering Monday's game, and they didn't turn it over but a handful of times.
9 times the Tar Heels turned it over in that game, but when you go 0-17 for a stretch of 11 minutes, not going to do well for you.
Not, you turn it over 9 times Saturday night, you'll live with that, because Duke steals it that many times. I think that's going to be the thing. Most years, Duke doesn't want to run with Carolina. Carolina doesn't want to run with Duke, and they shouldn't try to run with Duke, because if you try to run with Duke, then you're going to get embarrassed on your home court.
I'm with you. Make this game ugly, because that's how you're going to have a chance in this one.
This needs to be a half-court, grinded-out game. At the max, this game gets into the 70s. This game is going to have to be played in the 60s for you to feel like you got a chance. That's okay, because Carolina's only scored over 80 twice this year. So whether they've won or they've lost, they're comfortable playing in those kind of games because that's all they know. That's how they're going to have to win this game. They're going to have to control the tempo, which means they can't get out-rebounded. They got out-rebounded at Florida State. Duke averaged about 40 rebounds a game. Carolina's at 43. So you control the glass. You control the tempo. Be selective in whenever you try to run. But this is just, it's odd because most years I come on here and I'd be like, no, let's run. Let's see if Duke can keep up. Nah, I don't want to try to see if Duke can keep up. Because I don't want.
We can't.
Yeah, and it sucks saying that because it just shows you just how of an outlier this year is, where we don't want to try to run with certain teams because we're not built to run, and this team not built to run.
Can I throw out another key just really quickly before I think we turn to the predictions? One of the other big things that this team has really, really struggled with this year, which is just unprecedented for a Roy Williams team, is we keep saying get it inside to the bigs, get it inside to the bigs, get in the lane and find a way to finish. The problem is they are not finishing when they get to the rim. They were 9 of 21 on layups against Florida State. And this isn't just, that was one game. They are averaging in the low 50s percentage-wise in layup percentage.
That goes back to toughness.
Horrible. You, in this game, when you get a chance at the basket, you have got to finish. You have got to. Because let's be honest with ourselves, this team is not good enough at the free throw line to say, well, at least you drew the foul. No, you've got to be able to finish inside because right now they are not in rhythm at the free throw line. And they haven't been really all season. This feels like one of those games where they might be able to shoot well at the free throw line. But to me, if you get inside, you've got to be able to finish against this Duke team. Or else, those are opportunities that are just going to get wasted. And, you're not going to be able to, get down 8, 10, 12 and come back in this game. No, you get down 8, 10, and 12, it's going to keep mounting on you as quickly as it possibly can. Because, like you said, you talk about Cole Anthony not being a great spot-up shooter. Is he not the best spot-up shooter on this team right now, guard-wise, considering that Brandon Robinson's now out of the lineup?
Well, that's
what I'm saying. You don't have those three-point shooters, whereas a year ago, if you got down 8 or 10, Cam Johnson, Kobe White, even Luke May, they could bring you back at times when they string together threes. This year, you get down like that, it's over. There's no way you can come back unless you just all of a sudden lock down defensively. And you're just asking a lot from a team that is putting up so much effort on the offensive end and not coming away with results. So finish inside. That's just that simple.
It's going to come down to, as it normally does, who's the more tougher team, and that's mentally tough and that's physically tough. And Duke's going to really, really have Carolina check themselves with a gut check because Duke's not going to come in afraid. They don't come in afraid anyway. They're accustomed to this kind of environment. But especially with what they know is on the other end of the court this year, there's no one outside of Cole Anthony that poses a threat to really dominate and control the game. Whereas, last year Carolina had multiple guys that could take over. So with that, we'll go ahead and predict the game. This is where I really hate myself for going on record and saying that if we would have lost to Clemson, I would not pick Carolina the rest of the way.
Okay, I'm going to give you a pass on this one.
But
pick Carolina.
It's Duke. I've sung about the praises of Duke on this podcast. And when you read the preview, I highlight a lot of the things I like about this Duke team. My blood bleeds Carolina blue. This game is one of the most important things to me, not just in sports, but in my life. I genuinely love this game. The day, what it feels like when you get to watch the game, when you get what it feels like, when you beat Duke. So there's no way on God's green earth I'll pick the Blue Devils. I think Carolina upsets Duke in a way that salvages a lost season, but they'll get the win at home, and we'll come on here and celebrate and make fun of Duke.
Oh, I am definitely with you on that one. I will take Carolina in this one. I would never pick Duke ever. It's just not going to happen. Think they're a good basketball team. This is the time where you would feel like if this Carolina team is going to step up, play as a team, play for Coach Williams, and try to save what has been just a very difficult year for not only the fans, and we talk about it on here as well, us journalists and stuff like that.